Yesterday we talked about doing samples. We talked about the different types of samples. Now we're going to do the samples. That's the first thing we're going to do. First thing we did was a convenience sample. Convenience sample is the worst type of sample. It's not random at all. It's whatever's easiest for me. Okay. Um, there's no randomness. There's no system. It's just whatever plots are closest to the house are easiest for the farmer. Okay. So it's not a sampling method. It's a poor way of doing sampling. Okay. The first actual sampling is simple random sample. Okay. So we used the calculator yesterday. I showed you how to use the calculator to get random digits, but then when we got random digits, we're like, where do they go? Right? If I grab my little ring here and I choose one and I choose 18, it doesn't mean anything unless someone is 18. That's why I put these guys on there, right? I numbered each of the desks. So you got to number each of whatever there are. So there's 100 different squares. I have to number them first. Doesn't matter how you number them. Easiest to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 100. That's probably the easiest. You can number them crazy. You can put 1 if you wanted to. Like I said yesterday, you could put 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here. That would take a while though. You want to do something that's going to be quick. How to number them. Just quickly give numbers. Okay. Now that they're assigned numbers, we can use our calculator. Okay, so let's go back to our calculator. Let's go over how to get random, the algorithm for randomness. So on the calculator, the directions are, remember, math, probability, okay? And then there's 2 options for randomness, 5 and 8, 5 and 8. 8 is the best, but like I said, for those calculators that we have, 8 doesn't work for some reason. I don't know why. It's a glitch I don't know why, but if it's your own calculator, 8 is the best. If you don't have, if it's one of our classroom calculators, so math, probability, you got to use 5. Okay. But like I said, 8 is the best because it doesn't give any repetition. It's not going to double up a number. It's not going to give me a number twice. It's only going to give me a number once. Okay. So if you can use 8, sometimes you'll be given this. Sometimes you won't be given this. If you're not given this, put parentheses. Where do you want to start? Well, the first box is number 1. That's where I want to start. I want to finish with 100. That's the last box. And then how many do you want to choose? 10, right? So 1, 0, 10. Okay. So like I said, no repetition is the best, but if you can't, it's okay. It'll say rand int. That's okay too. All right. Hit enter. There's your 10 numbers. If any of the numbers repeat, you got to take another sample because we can't have any of the numbers repeat. So if you have no rep, you don't have to worry about that. But if you don't have no rep, if it doesn't say no rep, yours just says rand int, scroll down to make sure you don't get the same number twice. Scroll down to make sure you don't get the same number twice. You can just scroll down using left and right, okay, to see all the numbers. So if you get the same number twice, hit enter again, and you'll get a new set of randomized, okay? All right, okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go mark those spots. So the first one is 23. So I'm gonna go back to my grid, and I'm gonna go mark number 23. Well, this is 21, 22, 23 right there. 23, that's my 23. My 23 is right there. Okay. Yours might be, if you numbered the same way I did, your number 23 is going to be in the same spot. If you didn't, it'll be in a different spot. 60, number 60, my number 60 is right there. 82. My 82 is right here. 94, 91, 92, 93, 94. 50. 10. 41. 65. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me scroll over. Let's see, where was that? 36. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. 73. 71, 72, 73. 10. That's all 10. Okay. No, don't follow my calculator because that's my randomization. You need to follow on your calculator, which one's you're going to be. Okay, so if it doesn't let you, let's see. So try going like this. So if it doesn't let you scroll, try going up and going over. Oh, wait, that does it. Oops, what the heck? Okay, so if it doesn't let you scroll, just hit enter again, and it'll get you another set. For some reason, that arrow at the end erases after a while. I don't know why, but yeah. So if that arrow's not there, just hit enter again. Just make sure that no box is selected twice, because if it's selected twice, it's a bad sample. You got to do it again. Okay, so don't use my sample. Use your sample. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to do that. The worst thing in the world is saying, okay, so I can't use number 8, so I got to use this one. And then they go 1, 100, pick 10 of them, and then I get doubles. But I don't realize I get doubles until the very end. Like, I don't realize. Then I have to start all over. So how to get around that is don't pick 10, pick 15, pick 20, pick the first 10. That way, if you need 10, but one of them is doubles, you have a backup. Pick 15. So now there's 15 numbers. I only need 10 of them. So the first 10 that are different, I'm going to pick. So if I get doubles, like if one of these number is a doubles, then I'll go to the next one. Okay, so you don't have to start all over again. You're guaranteed. The chances that you have 5 numbers that double are very, very small. Okay, sometimes you could do that too. Because the worst thing in the world is getting to the end and then realizing, oh man, I ran out of numbers and that's a double. Then you have to start all over again. Okay, so if you just say, I only need 10, but I'm going to put 15 in there, then if you do have double, use the next number. Okay, so that's using the calculator. That way works. But one of the other ways you have to know how to do is using a random number chart. Random number. So we're going to do this again, except now I'm going to use a random number chart. The random number charts. All of our random number charts are exactly the same. Mine's not yellow, but it's exactly the same. Okay, so the yellow, yours is yellow, mine is white with orange stripes. Okay, this is a table of random digits. They have an algorithm where computer just spits out random digits. So they put a bunch of them on a list. There are 50 lines. Each line has 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 numbers. So 40 times 50, 2,000? 2,000 numbers. Okay, 2,000 numbers in random order from 0 to 9. Okay, So on an assignment or on a test, they'll tell you where to start. They'll say, hey, start at line 110, start at line 120, start at line 111, start at line, they'll tell you where to start. For today, we'll just start at 101. We'll start at 101. So I need to pick 10 numbers, right? I need to pick 10 numbers from 1 to 100. Okay. So don't do this yet. Don't do this yet. Look at my method, see if it works. This is what I'm going to do. This is a random number chart. This is the same thing as your calculator, just print it out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the first one. Okay. So the first number is 1. Let me get my highlighter here. The first number is 1. So I go over to my box and mark number 1. Okay. The second number is number 9. So I go over here and mark number 9. The third number is 2. So I go over here and mark box number 2. The third number is also a 2. So I'll go to the next number, 3. The next number is 9. I already got 9. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I keep going that way till I get 10. Is that a proper way of doing it? No, why not? Yeah, exactly. Anything from 11 to 100 has no chance of being chosen. That's not a simple random sample. So now I have to choose. So I have to open it up to those guys. Okay. So instead of doing exactly what I did, what would be a better method to open it up to all the boxes and not just 0 to 9? What would be a way of doing it? Yeah, Kira. Let's do 2 digits, right? Let's do 2 digits. 2 digits, excuse me. So instead of 1, let me see 19. So we'll say 19 is the first one. So I go put an X on number 19. And then I go, let me change colors. So 22 is the next box. Okay. 3 with the 9, 39 is the next one. 50 is the next one. 34 is the next one. 05 is the next one. 75 is the next one. That works. That's better. That's a lot better. There's one tiny problem with it. What's that problem? 100 cannot be chosen. 100 has no way of being chosen, right? It's better than the first problem. The first problem I had was 11 through 100 had no chance of being chosen. Better than that. But now I have to have a way for 100 to be chosen. So what can I do instead? What can I do for 100 to be chosen? One digit doesn't work because 11 through 100 can't be chosen. 2 digits is almost there, but I'm just missing 100. What could I do so that all the numbers could be chosen, including 100? So 3 numbers at a time? See, that's a good idea. I can only pick one rule. So if I go 2 digits at a time, they all have to be 2 digits. If I go 3 digits, they all have to be 3 digits, right? So 3 digits would work. 3 digits would absolutely work, right? Because every number could be chosen if they're 3 digits. What's the problem with that when I actually go do it? I could go over 100, 192. Go mark a box 192. We don't have 192, right? Okay, so skip that one. Go to the next one. 223 or 239. Is there a box 239? Next one, 503. Is there a box 503? Next one, 405. Is there a box 405? No. 756. No. 287. No. 139. We'll eventually get to something. But all of these numbers are too high. So it'll take me a while to get my 10. So we got to find something. I'll give you a hint. It involves going back to what Kira said, 2 digits at a time. But how can we tweak it so that it would guarantee everything? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of like what Jonathan said, like using 3 digits. I could only use 2 digits or 3 digits. I could only, but you're thinking along the right lines. You're almost there. Mm-hmm. No, not like that. So I want to go from 1 to 100, right? Well, 1 could be 0, 0, 1, right? But if I go 3 digits at a time, there's going to be a lot of numbers that are above that, right? There's going to be a lot of numbers above. So what's the way I can do 2 digits at a time, but tweak it so that it works? Yeah, Alex? Close. You guys are really, really close. How about this? How many digits? If I start with, instead of starting with 1, I start with 0, 0 and say, I think this is kind of what you guys were saying. This will be 100. And then everything else will be the number. So if I get 0, 1, that's 1. If I get 0, 2, that's 2. If I get 0, 3, that's 3, right? So a 0, 0 will represent 100. So I go 2 digits at a time, 0, 0 to 99. 0, 0 represents 100. Everything else represents whatever it is. So for example, the first one would be 19. I got a box 19. No, just 19. Go to box 19. Box 19 is right here. The next one would be 22. There's 22 right here. The next one would be 39. I have number 39. 50. I have a 50. I have a 38. I have a 5. I have a 75. I have a 62, and so on and so forth. But my point is, 100 can be chosen here because I've said 9900 is 100. Is that 100 numbers? From 00 to 99, is that 100 numbers? Or is that 99 numbers? 100 if I'm counting 0, right? If I start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get to 99, that's 99 numbers. But then I bump it, I say also 0, 0, that's 100. So there are 100 numbers. Each of them stands for one of the plots of land. Okay? So that's one way to do it. You could do it 3 digits at a time, but you're going to be sitting there for a while. Okay? Because you're going to keep running out of numbers because there's going to be a lot of numbers that are above 100. If you do 0, 1 to 99, it won't work because 100 doesn't have any chance to be chosen. Okay? So it's when you use this, it's all about fine tweaking it. How many are you going to use? 2 digits, 3 digits, 1 digit? Okay? So for this guy, this is what I would say. Okay? So my system for the table, because you always have to explain yourself. Because if you come to someone and say, here's a bunch of random numbers, or here's a random sample, they're going to be like, how do I know it's random? By explaining to them what you did, explaining to them your steps. How did you come up with those numbers? Well, the first thing I did was I numbered each box. So the first thing I did was number each plot or box. Gave every box a number. The second thing I did was went to the table. So I had, you know what? I should put what I numbered them. I numbered them 00 to 99. Use table 2 digits at a time. 00 to 99. Selected first 10 digits. I selected the first 10 digits. The first 10 numbers, those are the ones I selected. I didn't create the list. The yellow list you have, I didn't create it. A machine created it. Okay, a computer created it. Some sort of machine created it using an algorithm. I numbered them. I used the table 2 digits at a time, 00 to 99, and then I selected the first 10 that I had. That's how I created mine. If you explain that, that's your system, then there's no way they can say it wasn't random. But if you don't explain how you did your system, you're leaving yourself empty. This whole chapter is about poking holes in people's thinking. If I can poke holes in your explanations, it's wrong. Okay? But if I can't, I'm like, that's good. That works. That's a system. It works. Then you're okay. Okay? You don't want to be people to be able to poke holes in your argument. All right. Okay, so let's do the second one. Or the third one, sorry. The third one is stratified now. So not simple random sample anymore, stratified. So someone remind me, what is stratified again? What is stratified random sampling? Into groups, yeah, subgroups. They're separated into subgroups based on something in common. Well, they told us what they want in common. They said they have to be separated by column. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, all the way to column 10. Okay? So they want us to select one box from each of the 10 columns. They want an equal representation from each of the 10 columns. So I'm going to number this just like I did before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I don't need to count up to 100. I just count up to 10. Okay. All right. So now what I want you to do, what we're going to do is we're not going to use the calculator. We're going to use the table. The first column. This is the first column here. Let me highlight it. Let me highlight the first column. Oops. Which box do I select? I'm going to use the table. So let's write some steps here on how to do it before we do it. Okay, system using the table. What do I do first? I got a number, right? I have to know which box is which. So I numbered each column and numbered each row. Number each column 1 to 10 and each row 1 to 10. That's what I did first. Good. So when I go to the table now, oops, the first number is 1. So I go and I mark number 1. All right. The second one, the second row. Well, my second number is 9. That one's down here. The third column, the third number is 2. That one goes there. The fourth column is a 2. Is it okay if I have 2 2s? Or do I skip it? Because last time I skipped it. Last time if I got repeats, I told you to skip them. Is it okay this time? It's in a different row, so it's not the same number. It's not the same plot. Okay? So if I keep doing this, is this a good method? Almost. Why is it not a good method? Can't get 10 again. I can't get 10 again. Well, can I tweak it so I can get 10? That's what I have to explain. So use table to select 1-digit numbers. So what type of numbers do I want? 1 to 9? Nope. So what digits should I choose? 0 to 9. Okay, 0 to 9. 0 again is a 10. Everything else is whatever it is. So if I get a 0, that means 10. If I get a number, that's what it is. So the fifth number, let's see the fifth number. The fifth number is 3. The sixth number is 9. I got 9 earlier, but again, it doesn't matter because it's a different column. The next number is 5. The next number is going to be 0, so that means 10. The next number is 3, and then the last number is 4. So I should have 10 X's, and I do. So 6, 7, and 8 never get chosen. It's random. That happens sometimes. 6, 7, and 8 never get chosen. Rows 6, 7, and 8 never get chosen. It happens. That's okay. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way it happened. Okay. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to do the same thing, except now instead of stratifying by column, you're going to stratify by row. I want you guys to do that one on your own. Use the table. Use where we left off. We left off on 4. So use the table after 4. So start with 0. Don't start from where we started. Start where we finished. All of our. Okay, so everybody should have the same boxes checked for this one because we started from the same spot and we use the same table. We use the same random digit table. Okay. So the first thing I got to do is number each row, number each column, just like I did the last time. So my system using the table. Number each row and each column. Okay, that's the first step. Second step, I got to use the table now. Use the table. Same thing as the last time, but instead of going by row or by column, I'm going by row. Okay. So use the table 1 digit at a time. 0 to 9. Same steps, just instead of rows, or instead of columns, we're doing rows. So the first one I left off at was 0. So that's 10. So the first one gets a 10. The next one gets a 5. The next one gets a 7. Then another 5. Then a 6 and a 2. Then an 8 and a 7. And then the last two, 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Okay. So nothing from column 4 got chosen. And nothing from column 9 got chosen. That's okay. Happens. It's random. Okay? It's random. So what's the difference between method 3 and 4, which is stratified, and simple random sample? What's the difference between what we just did and a simple random sample? That's my question. What's the difference? Because I used the table for both. Didn't I use the table? But what's the difference between them? What's the difference between 2 and the last 2 I just did? Repeating's okay. Yeah, repeating was okay for these guys. That has to do with kind of the differences. What was the difference here? Were there any restrictions here? No restrictions. Everyone could have been chosen. Literally every box could have been chosen. Were there restrictions here? What were the restrictions? Exactly. There had to be equal representation. In here, there can only be one number in each row. Or sorry, column. All right. I couldn't have 2 in a column. I couldn't have 2 in a row. Right? There's restrictions there. If there's restrictions, it's not as good. It's still random. Don't get me wrong, it's still random. This one had no restrictions. I could have had all 10 of them in the same row. I could have had all 10 of them in the same column. That's okay. There's no restrictions there. These guys, there were restrictions. When are restrictions better? When is it okay to use restrictions? Or is it sometimes okay to use, when is it beneficial to have restrictions and not have restrictions? We kind of talked about this yesterday. Yeah, exactly. If I'm trying to get opinions about things that happen at this school and I'm asking 40 people, I don't want all 40 people to be from one grade or most of them to be from one grade. I want equal representation, right? That's what I want, because 9th graders might feel differently than 10th graders. 10th graders might feel differently than 12th graders. 12th graders might feel differently than 11th graders. I want to get everybody's opinion. So sometimes you want equal representation. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. It just depends on the situation. Okay? All right. The next one is cluster sampling. Okay? They're already broken up into clusters for you. There's 10 clusters. Think of the field as grouped as 10 sections, as shown in the picture below. Use your calculator or your random number table. Randomly choose one section. Okay? And then mark the 10 plots from the section with an X. So you're randomly choosing a cluster. And then when you find the cluster, everybody in that cluster gets an X. A census. Census means everybody. Okay? So calculator. Let's use calculator. Since we didn't use the calculator last time, let's use calculator. So we're going to use the calculator to do what they said. Randomly choose one section. That's a good question. That's what I'm going to ask my next question. Where do I go? There you go. I want to randomly pick, right? 5 or 8, whichever one you can use. 8's the best, but if you can't use 8, use 5. I want to start with 1. I want to finish with 10. I only want you to choose 1. So 1, 10, 1. Enter. There's one number. Number 2 got chosen for me. Another one got chosen. So whichever one you chose, that's the one you're going to mark. Okay? So for example, mine was number 2. So I'm going to mark every square in 2. You're going to mark every square in whatever cluster you got chosen, whatever cluster came up. Even though we use the calculator, we still have to explain how I got cluster 2 or you got cluster whatever cluster you chose. You have to explain it. Okay? So we're going to write down our system. Yep, we're going to write down our system. Let's see, do I system using calculator. Well, the first step was done for us. You had to number each cluster 1 to 10. Divide into 10 equal clusters or sections. They all had to be the same. You couldn't have one be bigger than the other. Okay. Once we did that, we used the calculator to randomly select one section or cluster. All squares or all plots in that cluster were selected. Okay. It explains exactly what we did. Divided into 10 equal sections. We use the calculator. I don't get into how the calculator does it. Like I got a little more technical with the chart because I knew the magic behind the chart. I don't know the magic behind the calculator. I'm not involved in how they do that. I just use the calculator to randomly select one section. All squares in that cluster were selected. Okay, that's cluster. Still explain myself, but this time I used the calculator. Okay. On a test or a quiz, I don't care which one you use. Was that your question? Yeah, on a test or a quiz, on a homework, I don't care which one you use. You can use the table or you can use a calculator. The only time you're forced to use it is if they tell you, I want you to use this table. I want you to use a table. I want you to use a calculator. So if they specifically tell you, you have to use it that way. But if they don't tell you, fair game. It's fair game. You can use whatever you want, whatever method you want. Okay, most people like the calculator because it's quick. But like I said, table works fine too. Okay. All right, so last one. Last one will be done. Multi-stage. Multi-stage is this one gets a little hairy because there's different stages. It's kind of like cluster, but we keep going. Okay. So think of the field as grouped in 10 sections. So each section has 10 squares in it. Use your calculator or random number table to randomly choose 5 sections. That's step 1. So use your calculator to randomly select 5 sections. I'm going to do the same thing. So if I have a number that repeats, is that okay for this one? Is that okay to have a number that repeats on this one? No, right? No. So if you don't have, so if yours is not no repetition, pick 6, pick 7, so that you could choose the first 5 that don't repeat. Okay? Okay, so choose 5 sections. Okay, so mine are 1, 3, 4, 5, and 10. Write yours down, because we have other directions we got to do after that. So write your 5 down. Okay. So then it says in sections 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, if you chose those, we got to choose one plot from each row. So I use 3 and 4 and 5. So these guys right here, 3, 4, 5. I used these guys. So what I have to do is go to those plots, and I'm going to choose one plot from each row. So from this row and this row, I have to choose one from each row. How am I going to do that? Can I use the calculator to do that? So I'm going to have it pick not 2 numbers. I'm only going to have it pick 1 at a time, 1 to 5. So I'm going to number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do each row at a time. So if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 chosen, do this. So 1 row at a time. I have there's 5 in that row. I want to choose 1. So the first one I want to choose 3. So I'm going to go choose plot 3. Then I'm going to do it again, hit enter. It said pick 3 again. So mine looks like this. Mine looks like that. I'm going to do that again for 4 and for 5. So if you have others, do it that way. So I have 2 and 1.
What if you get it twice?
5 and 2. Can I have it twice? Can I have the same number twice? 5. So if I get 5 and 5, is that okay? Because they're different rows, right? They don't refer to the same box. Anytime they refer to the same box, can't happen. But if they refer to different boxes, that's okay. All right, so those are theirs. What do you mean you have 2 in the same box? Okay. So it says if you chose 1, 2, 8, or 9, you're going to do the same thing, but instead of rows, instead of column, you're going to do columns instead of rows. So like I chose 1. So I have 2 rows. I'm going to label each row, or 2 columns, sorry. I'm going to label each row 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I got 1. So I'm going to go mark box 1. And then I got 5. I'm going to go mark box 5. I got 1 and I got 5. So I marked box 1 and I marked box 5. So you're going to do that. If you have 2, 8, or 9, you're going to do that. 1, 2, 8, or 9. 10 is enough. 10 is another animal. We'll do 10. I'll do 10 together because I have to do 10. Mm-hmm.
How do you know if to put it in the left or right column?
So I did one column at a time. So when I did 1, 5, 1, that was just for this guy here. So if I got number 1, I put this up here. 2 would be here, 3 would be here, 4 would be here, 5 would be here. And then I did the second one, 1 through 5. Yeah, so it could be confusing if you do both of them together. Choose 2. Could be a little confusing because you're like, oh, is that 3 or is this 3? So be careful with that. Since I'm using the calculator, all I got to do is hit enter one more time. So it's really easy. So 1 through 5, I got 1. And then I did 1 through 5, I got 5. Okay, the last one is 10. 10 says choose 2 from the 10. So it's just one big column. 10 is one big column. Ten is just one big column. So if you got 10, just choose 2 from that. So I got to tweak my thing. So instead of 1 to 5, I got to go 1 to 10 now. And I want to choose 2. 4 and 7. Now at the end, I should have 10 plots chosen. 10 plots chosen. 10 X's. That's multi-stage. Multi-stage always takes the longest because there are multi-stages. Okay? That always takes the longest out of all of them. All right. Okay, so I'm going to post the assignment. There is an assignment on sampling. I want you to do some sampling on your own. I'm going to post the assignment after class today.